Good afternoon and welcome to On the Spot Motorsports Media. I'm your host, Mitchell Gunter, right along with Robert Simpson. I'll tell you what, we got a great show tonight. We have one of the up-and-coming stars in the NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle class, Richard Gadson. I'll tell you what, he has already won his first event of his career, and we're going to dive into that a little bit and talk a little bit about his past with him coming up through the ranks to this point. It's going to be great. You don't want to miss it. But before we get into that, we've got a couple of messages for you.
Reliability to drive thousands of miles. Confidence for those who fly high. Redline oil products give you the power to crush the competition. And a track record of being the best. Redline oil products. You push it to the limit, we'll protect it.
Ready to take your engine to the next level? Scorpion Racing Products delivers precision-engineered, high-performance rocker arms that dominate the track. 100% CNC machined in the USA with aerospace-grade aluminum for unmatched strength and durability. Our rocker arms handle extreme conditions with multiple ratios available to fit your needs. Backed by our exclusive lifetime warranty. When performance matters, choose Scorpion Racing Products. Proven, reliable, unstoppable.
Richard, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I know y'all have had a really busy schedule. Y'all just got finished last weekend racing in Virginia, and now y'all are looking forward to Norwalk. And I tell you, it's hard to try to fit things in a couple of days because you'll be packing up and headed up there to Norwalk.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. The pleasure's mine. I've always watched you guys' pages and followed your platform, and I'm happy to be here. And yeah, the schedule. This is where it gets fun. You know, you don't get much. You don't have much downtime, and it's so weird. You know, when you're leaving the racetrack and you're saying bye to everybody, it's almost like I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you in a couple days. We'll leave here and we'll meet up at another racetrack here in a little bit. But this is where it gets fun. You start to get in a rhythm, and you start to and you know they're back to back, and you know you just hope that you don't have much work to do to your bike. You know, hope you don't hurt many parts because there's not much time in between on the week. I think our truck will be home. He got home yesterday or last night sometime, and he leaves again. I think tomorrow sometime. So it's about a day and a half worth of work in there.
Yeah, and you also are a working man as well. You know, you work. You have your own business.
No, I used to before this Vance and Hines deal came, I actually owned my own towing company, and when this opportunity came on the table, I was doing pretty bad with it anyway. But when this came on the table, I closed that down, and I work full time at Vance Hines Motorsports right here in Brownsburg, Indiana, and you know, it's a pretty cool deal because to me, you know, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks to do what you're giving your life to already anyway. You know, my job description isn't racing per se. I actually have a lot of other things we do in the day-to-day operations, but still to me, you know, it's motorcycles, and that's what my life is revolved around. So I guess I say I get to have my cake and eat it too, you know.
Right. It's the love of labor, you know. It feels like you're not actually working. It's all fun. It's all, you know, that's.
Yep, it's all fun. You know, your alarm goes off in the morning and you jump out the bed to go to work. You know, it's like you're not like laying there trying to figure out, oh, you know, how can I get out of today or whatever. It's a really good deal, man. When I say I'm living the dream, it's not just in the racing aspect. I'm living the motorsports motorcycle racer dream from top to bottom, from what I do every day all the way to what I get to do on the motorcycle. So pretty blessed.
Now, you know, to talk a little bit about your career. How young were you when you first jumped on a motorcycle?
Jumped on a motorcycle in general. I believe I was probably around 8. You know, I could never touch the ground on anything I rode. So I learned how to ride motorcycles pretty much from my uncle holding it up, and I would get on it and ride it. And my job was, because I couldn't touch the ground, was to not stop. Just don't stop moving. So I just rode around and rode around and rode around. And when I was ready to stop, he would help me off. I'd have to stop near him. He'd help me off. And that's when I started riding in bikes. But I started racing when I was 15 years old. I rode my uncle. He used to race a class called 600 Super Sport back in the day for Team Kawasaki. And he'd take me to Atco Raceway on some of the test and tune nights. I mean, this is after a school night, right? I'd leave school and barely in high school, I'd leave school and drive over to Atco Raceway and make some laps, and then go home at night and go to school tomorrow. That was how I started, and I was around 15 years old. We used to. It's so funny. Actually wasn't old enough to race. You were supposed to hold a driver's license before you could, but that was
Right.
16. That was 16.
Right.
And my uncle knew I was ready. So I remember being at it was also called the US Nationals, is what the Pro Star race in Atco was called. I remember
Okay.
being at the Pro Star US Nationals, and he'd tell me, sit in the staging lanes and do not take your helmet or your suit off, because they're gonna know. I mean, like, I was 15, but I really looked like I was 10. And he's like, they're gonna know you're a kid. They're gonna know you're too young. So just keep your helmet on. So middle of the day, hot sun out, whatever, I'd sit in the staging lanes. I was just racing Street ET. The line was all the way to the back of the staging lanes, and I'm sitting there fully suited up, helmet on, visor down, the whole deal. I don't know if that looked more obvious than it was supposed to or what, but that was how I started, long time ago though.
But that
All
made
that
you
sweating in
tougher.
all that sweating in that suit and helmet was worth it, wasn't it?
It was so worth it. I was very, very, very. If you knew me before that moment, I mean, this is all I ever studied. I studied this like I should have studied, science or something, or law. I might actually be a millionaire if I studied something else as much as I studied racing. But I'd wake up in the morning and I'd watch racing tapes until my school bus got there, or however I was getting to school, and I'd go to school, and then when I come home, I'd race to do my homework so that I can just watch racing. That's all I did. I wore those tapes out back and forth, and I would literally say, this is literally all I've ever wanted to do. It was the only idea in life that I ever had, was doing what I'm doing right now.
Well, you actually, followed your uncle to, several races, uh, even on the NHRA level. And, you got to know a lot of people at a very young age. And to me, I think if you surround yourself by very talented people, it rubs off on you.
Yeah, I would have to agree to that 100%. Just thinking about it, like, I'm a father now, but and was an uncle prior to being a dad, and just knowing the responsibility of somebody dragging a kid along everywhere they went, all over the country, to every racetrack, and that's what he did. He took me out of school, and he took me racing with him. I think he just needed me to he needed somebody in the bleachers to video everything. So I kind of was like
Don't buy
designated. I
that.
was I was hired
Don't
for
buy
that.
that. Don't
but
buy that. He was keeping
but
a check on you. You know that.
that's right. But no, he was awesome. He was pivotal. He literally carried me across the country everywhere he went. And I watched all of the greats before me. So I have so much respect for so many of them. And I think they view me as like a little brother kind of a figure, because they've all known me since I was just barely old enough to be at the racetrack. So
Right.
that's my story.
Yeah.
Now, you actually have 5 championships in other sanctioned bodies, correct?
Yes, sir. So there's I have two, no, I have three pro mod championships. I have one super stock championship, and just for the guys who don't realize that us heads up guys know how to bracket and index race, I had to throw a 460
Yeah.
championship in there.
Yeah.
2019, I won the 460 championship at XDA. Believe it or not, that's the one I'm most proud of. That is the toughest class that I've ever competed in my life. Still to this day, pro stock is really, really tough, but from a different standpoint. 460 is you go 461 and you're qualified 13th or 14th, and if you go 20 on the light, you left second. It's that kind of a class. But I won that championship in 2019 by 1 point, and that's the one I
Mm,
wear. That's the one I wear most proud.
rightfully so. You earned it, to say the least. I mean, like you said, the 5 championships that you've earned on a variety of combinations. I mean, not only that, King of Grudge, which, by the way, I love the name. That is a
Yeah.
great name. You know, in 2013, King of Grudge and all that stuff, and the Super Stock Champion and other things. But you come off of different classes that don't require wheelie bars and have a street tire on them, correct?
Yes, sir. So I ride stuff with wheelie bars as well.
Right,
It's
right.
funny. I was just after this race, after the race that I won in NHRA, a buddy of mine texts me and says, "Yo, do you realize you've won in every single motorcycle drag racing class?" And I said, no, I didn't. I've never won in Top Fuel. That's the only kind of bike that I think I've never ridden or won a race or won an event in at least. But yeah, no wheelie bars all the way from stock wheelbase dirt bikes all the way up to NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycles. I've pretty much, I love them all. I don't have a specific thing that I like to say I'm better at or worse at. I kind of just tried to be as versatile as I could and ride a little bit of everything, even Harleys and V twins. I just
Right.
love racing, man, and I find the fun in them all. They all have different challenges for different reasons, and that's kind of always been my driving force. And not only that, I've always kind of prided myself on in all the classes, no bars and wheelie bar classes of kind of going against the grain, like if everybody was on a turbo Hayabusa, I would do a nitrous bike. If everybody was on Kawasaki's, I'd ride a Suzuki or whatever. Like I always kind of I always really, really, really enjoyed the challenge of an uphill battle or to
Right.
kind of do something different than to go against the grain. And that's kind of how I've, went my whole career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and I tell you, we look at the pro stock motorcycle class right now, and y'all are always pushing the envelope. Y'all are right there around 200 to 203 miles an hour through the traps, but you've actually gone 221 through the traps and 640 on a Suzuki 1980 Suzuki GS 1100.
Yep. Yep.
nitrous bike too.
Yeah.
Nitrous bike. Yep. So that is
Nitrous.
we did that in 2019. That was on a gentleman named Brad Mummert's Pro Street GS. And the funny story about that is he built that bike and another gentleman was riding it. And I just used to message him. I never knew, but I didn't know him. I just messaged him and tell him how cool I thought the bike was. And the other rider had a life change and he decided he wasn't going to race. And I was the first person he called. And I rode that bike for around 10 years. And we gradually, when I first started riding it, it went 740s. Literally, we picked up a second on that motorcycle over a period of probably 8 years. And we ended up in 2019 winning the most prestigious race that we have, which is called the Battle Royale. We beat Jeremy Teasley in the finals on side by side 640 with a 3. We both went. And 221 mile an hour is what I went, and that is still to this day the quickest and fastest nitrous no wheelie bar pass in the world.
And I tell you, watching the videos of you on that bike, very smooth. I was so impressed. And I've never been raised around motorcycle racing, but I can appreciate the talent and the hard work. We all can. But how smooth that bike worked. Now, I saw it a couple times get rowdy, but
Yeah.
but just how smooth. And I was like going, my gracious, look at this thing. And you had a routine, and you could tell your routine on what you did. But who is it that was mentors to you? Obviously, your uncle. Obviously, okay. But who was your mentors that you looked up to and have followed for your entire career so far?
Yeah, so my uncle is obviously the biggest one
Mhm.
from birth. I would say once I started racing, it was Joe Franco Senior, from a gentleman from New York, was definitely one of my mentors, and another gentleman who I would say is probably responsible for a large amount of my success. In the peak of my career. His name is Johnny Locklear. He's
Yep.
not a big name guy, but he's from North Carolina. He
Yep.
likes to fly under the radar, but he taught me. He was who elevated my career to the next level. For I could ride a motorcycle prior to being with Johnny, but I didn't know much about the bike itself, about working on it, about tuning them, and he literally single handedly taught me pretty much everything I know. And I owe a big thanks to him. He was probably my biggest mentor from I would say age 25 and later. Um, And then you have obviously your greats, as far as just idols that I looked up to. You have your Antron Browns and Michael Phillips and Eddie. Honest to God, Eddie Krawick. This is so funny. This is a full circle
Yeah.
moment, full circle story. Eddie used to kick my butt on the 600s that we were talking about that I started on. And
Yeah.
when he started to get this Vance and Hines deal, he was moving on out of the class. So he sold me the engine out of his 600. He traded my stock one in $600, and I got his engine in the first event I ever won in my life. And six was a 600 Super Sport event in St. Louis, Missouri. Was with Eddie's engine in it. Now he's my crew chief on the NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle for my first Pro Stock win. So pretty cool story there.
It'll probably bust your chops a little bit about that too. I'm sure. You know what I mean? It's like going, you changed the tune up, didn't you? You didn't listen to me or something. It's
You must have
probably
met
something.
you must have met Eddie once or twice. He always busts my chops about something.
Yeah, I figured that was the case.
Yeah.
Anytime you run around, but yeah, Johnny Lockhart. I didn't have a chance to look to research him as much as I wanted to, but I heard more than one person mention him out of respect, just like what you did. Looked up to him. So that man holds a lot of clout in that
One
field. So
one of
yeah,
the smartest people I ever met. I'm forever indebted to him.
absolutely.
I have a question for you. It's from Homegrown Son, and he wanted to know I think he wanted to see, would you be like Antron Brown and possibly move up to a fuel class one day?
Top Fuel, I'm all in for. I would love to do Top Fuel. I'm really, really, really pro stock car would be my dream. I'm a normally aspirated guy. I know that's kind of a hard sale, being as though a lot of the records and championships I won are on power adder bikes, nitrous bikes, but I really, 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 my heart is at normally aspirated. So pro stock car would be my first choice. Top Fuel would be my second. Funny car, I can do without funny car. I need the engine. I need the engine behind me in a nitro car.
Yeah,
But here,
it gets a little crazy. Even though you got that shield in front of you,
Yeah,
parts
no
still be
thanks.
flying everywhere on
Yeah, but the
118s.
oil and the fire, you can't. That shield can't get that stuff out of the way. I'm good on the funny
you
car, and
do
and
hear
that's a,
yourself right. You do hear yourself right. You race motorcycles. You know what I mean? You got leathers and a helmet. I
a
mean,
man. A man must know his limits, right?
this is true.
And
This is true.
funny car scares me. They scare me to watch. They scare me to watch somebody else drive it. If you've never stood by, watching it from the bleachers is one thing, or watching on TV is one thing. But I challenge anybody to stand behind a funny car on the start line and watch it go down the racetrack. You will see how much driving it darts the entire time. It's literally controlled chaos. They're on the verge of crashing the whole entire run, and they keep it. It's absolutely amazing what those guys do. They get my utmost respect, but I think that's beyond my I think that's beyond my scope of what I want to do.
Beyond your desires, huh?
That's right. Yes, sir.
That's why I like fuel alters too. I like them just for that
Yes,
reason.
sir.
And I
But
tell you, they
go
will
ahead.
also scare the mess out of you for standing by the wall taking photos, and it steps out, about 10 feet from you. Uh, you either have to make a quick decision to run or duck behind the wall.
Yeah, see, you guys that do what you guys do are almost more crazy than the drivers, because the drivers are at least in control of what they are, of what's happening. You guys are just there, and this thing is moving 500 feet a second or whatever it is, 400 feet a second, and
Right.
you're 15 feet away from it. So you want to talk
It don't
about
matter.
split? Yeah, you want to talk about split decisions? Big props to you guys for standing in there and capturing these moments for us. Though we really appreciate you guys.
Well, there's some legends in photography and stuff like that you've seen over the years, capturing photos that are just second to none. But then a lot of it, I'm with you. I scratch my head. I'm like, what exactly are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? And no, we appreciate the nice words. But I got a question for you. Uh, as a writer, from your point of view, what is your routine as a writer? I mean, I don't mean any secrets, but what is your routine? What gets you in the zone for writing? What helps you focus and concentrate on what you're doing?
Before the racetrack or after, or you mean
Well,
before
both.
a run?
before a
Both.
run?
I mean, what do you do in like off season or during the week to prepare you to race? And then also when you get to the track, what do you do to help keep yourself focused?
Off season, I do a bunch of eating and family time, and then you spend the first couple months of the year trying to get the weight off you. But no, no, seriously, really just being mindful. This isn't like a specific thing, but just being mindful always of our weight. Luckily for us, we have to be so heavy on the pro stock bikes that it's not so critical. The guys don't want us to get too small because we actually have problems getting the weight on the bike. But anyway, the biggest thing is watching your weight, and trying to eat properly and really just stay in the zone, stay mentally and physically prepared for the events. But when you get to the event, it's really about getting rest. Maybe me at my age or this part of my career, that's a big one for me. Some guys can come to the racetrack and had been partying all night. That's not me. I gotta go get my sleep. I feel like we race for hundredths of a second. So, if reaction time is such a big deal of it, if we're if you're fatigued, it might show up in your performance. So staying hydrated, and eating, we got to stay consistent because we play weight so close on these pro stock bikes. Like let's just say 660 pounds is the minimum weight. We want to be pretty much 660. And let's
Right.
just say a hot weekend like Virginia this past weekend. Let's say I went to Virginia at 144 pounds. So let's just say after Friday, Saturday, you set up on Friday, you're sweating your what off, and
Hmm.
then Saturday the same. By Sunday, you might be 135, 6, 7 pounds without realizing it, just out of losing water weight. So part of your routine is to be very consistent on how much you drink, when you drink, staying hydrated and eating. Um, so that we're not fatigued, so you don't go up there, have a heat stroke, or pass out, or whatever the case may be, but also so that you can keep your body weight where it needs to be and you can perform at a high level. Now, on the motorcycle itself, um, a lot of what you do once the tree falls is second nature to you. It's natural. You don't really know a routine per se. You pop the clutch and then you do what comes natural to you. But prior
Right.
to that, from what you do to the bike at the pits, it's repetition. It's the same thing every single run, and consistency. If drag racing can teach anybody anything in life, the one thing I would say, that doesn't have anything to do with racing, I would say the biggest thing is it can teach you consistency. It can teach you how doing the same thing day in and day out, or hour after hour, or whatever it is, yields a specific result. And that's what you do. We do our clutch every run. We do it the same way every single run. The clutch stack height measures the same thing every single run. Your tire, we set it at the trailer before we even go to lanes to the same exact thing. It's just we fill the fuel up to the same exact spot. It's like it's a lot of repetition, man. But that's a roundabout routine as a
Hmm.
rider and what we do. So, but the biggest part of it is staying physically prepared to do what we do.
Now, I want
Gotcha.
to ask you one question. And I've talked to other drivers in the nitro categories and pro stock drivers, and wanted to see if it still related to y'all as well. Is when you're out there at the track and y'all do y'all eat small portions throughout the day? That way, you're not so heavy on your stomach, because they tell me sometimes if you eat too much, that it can actually slow your reaction
Yeah.
down to the tree. So I actually have started experimenting with it as well, because I bracket race. So, what I do is I eat peanuts or almonds
Yeah.
throughout the day. So I'm not really heavy loaded with food. And it actually does pay off on my end that I've witnessed this season. And just
Yeah.
wanted to see if that's one of the things that y'all do as well.
Yeah, just kind of snacking all day on small things. I'll eat a wrap or something like that. Ray, our driver, also a member of our crew as well. I don't want to just call him a truck driver. He's pretty much my main crew guy. He keeps the refrigerator stocked with lunch meat and wraps. So I'll make a wrap and I'll eat that once a day. But aside from that, it's a cup of coffee in the morning, a bunch of water throughout the day, some granola bars, and just and peanuts, like nuts, like you just basically just said. Um, some fruit. It might sneak a cookie in there here and there, but that's pretty much it, man. A bunch of small snacking, small portions. Keep your energy level up, keep your metabolism up, but not feeling sluggish from eating. You don't want to eat. You don't want to. I won't go eat a cheeseburger or anything like that
Right.
in the middle of the day, except for when we're in Pomona, when In and Out Burger
Oh,
is out
I've
there.
heard about those.
You just
Now,
can't help it. You just it's nothing you can do about it. You just
I've
can't.
heard
now,
about those.
this
Yeah.
weekend coming up, you have to worry about the ice cream.
Yeah, this weekend coming up, it'll be
Yeah.
the ice cream in Norwalk. Everybody that knows anything about drag racing knows about Norwalk's ice cream, and so
Mhm.
yeah, this weekend it'll be that. I try to wait until we're done racing usually, but you know, if when it comes over you, you got to go get a bowl of it.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be first in line if you can
Yep.
get to it.
Yep.
And I
That's
want
for
to say
sure.
they sell it by the pound.
Yep, they
Yeah,
do.
they
Sell it by the
well,
pound.
it's different now. Back in the day, it was a pound, and it was in a bowl, and it was $1. It's still
Right.
only, I think, $2 or $3, and it might still be a pound, but it's like they got fancy now. They got them in little cartons, like they got their actual own brand in a carton. It's fancy, but
Oh,
the taste, and it's still there. It's still Norwalk's ice cream. I love it.
it gets you going. Now, I tell you that you explained a lot there, and I did not think about it. That possibly y'all losing that much weight over a weekend. Okay, I know y'all try to stay out of the sun as much as possible and stuff like that, but I didn't think about it. But then I was thinking, you're in leathers.
Yeah.
Okay, you're zipped up tight. You cannot get much ventilation, so you're definitely going to perspire and get rid of that weight. So that completely makes sense in keeping everything light on you. Uh, but what motivates you? I know you love to race, and you did say it, but what motivates you? What has motivated you through your whole career? Is it just that you want to win or want to go faster, or what is it?
Man, I say that everybody has their whys. Everybody has different whys. Some people race because they want to be on TV. Some people race because um, they like the whatever. My why has always been um, being better than everybody else. To be honest with you, I'm a very I would call myself an emotional racer. To the point, what I mean by that is that I'm driven by usually feeling like I have a point to prove, or that I if somebody said something that I didn't like, I want to beat that person. I'm very goal driven by things like that. For me, it was just really just just wanting to be better, wanting to be the best, wanting to go. And once you start doing it, one thing I say about drag racing is that we racing for ET. So once you achieve a goal, like let's just say you wanted to go 200 mph, you want to go in the sixes. Once you go 699, now you want to go 689. Or once you go, 200 mph, now you want to go 210. And
Right.
that in itself will keep you going. But me, I'm usually just wanting to shut somebody up, or or beat somebody, whoever everybody's saying is the best. I want to beat that person. And I'm usually driven by stuff like that. That's my little kind of inner demon when it comes to racing.
No, that's not a demon. That's
Yeah.
motivation right there. I
But
like
even
that.
and I can take that a step further. That's my own personal deal, but it's kind
Yeah.
of transformed as time goes. Now I like the fact of when I think about myself, my childhood, and just my upbringing, and the whole road getting here. Now I like the fact of the matter of doing well and achieving goals so that people can, other people like me, can realize that they can live without limits, or just or to push beyond whatever your circumstances are right this
Right.
minute. Think outside the box a little bit. No, you don't have the money, but do you have a resource? Do you have a connection? Do you have a different way to offset the money, or just can you move and pivot a little bit? Can you work at somebody's shop, start at the bottom, prove yourself, et cetera, et cetera, and just kind of being an inspiration to people who may feel like something's unobtainable. I got no business racing pro stock motorcycle, let alone racing pro stock motorcycle for the name on the shirt for Vance and Hines, but I do. And anybody that's close to me would probably be able to tell you it's pretty crazy that ended up happening. But just trying to tell, show people that to just keep pushing. That's pretty much one of my main things.
And you're 100% correct, because if you walk around in the pits and you go up to some of these drivers, they did start at the bottom.
Dallas Glenn.
Dallas Glenn is one of them. Yep. Exactly. Started there, and he done the burnouts on the burnout car to get the tires ready, and look where it's at today. Just some really, really great stories.
Yeah.
You look at kind of like Austin Prock in a way. He started there in John Ford's shop a little bit with his dad, and then boom, next thing you know, he's driving Top Fuel, and now he's in the funny car and achieving his goals. So when life throws you a curveball, hey, there's always another way of getting around to meeting your goals that you want to meet in life, and you just have to work for them. You have to fight for what you believe in, where you want to be, in the sport. But what is it like to be part of a team like Vance and Hines with all the history they have had throughout the NHRA? I mean, their history just gets really deep in the roots.
Yeah, it's obviously you have the surface thing. It's humbling. It's like, I can't believe I raced for Vance Hines, but to take it a little bit deeper and be a little bit more transparent, it's a lot of pressure. That's how I felt initially. I'm like, and that was self-applied pressure. I didn't get any from them. They are actually very understanding, and they knew that it would be pressure, that I would feel that, and they tried to relieve it. But you can talk your face off all you want. When you get an opportunity to ride behind Eddie Krawick, got off of his seat, 4-time national champion, 49 event wins, one of the most storied careers in motorcycle drag racing. He gets off of his seat and gives it to you. There's no way to not feel pressure. There's no way possible. Andrew Hines is the other crew chief in the trailer, and basically pretty much our team leader. And Gage Herrera, everything he did prior to me coming, and Angel, and there's only 4 or 5 people to ever ride for Vance and Hines, and I think there's maybe only 3 that don't have the last name Vance or Hines, and I'm one of them. And at first it was just a lot of pressure. It was so many. You wanted it. You came in the pits and you just wanted to do everything right. You didn't want to do anything wrong. You didn't know what they gave leeway for, what they didn't. And I remember my first weekend, my first time going to the scales. Right, this is a funny story. I know about bikes, right, but first time going to the scales, and I can't remember if it was Jay Krawick or Eddie or Andrew. I don't remember who it was, but they were like, "Make sure you got enough air in your tire to make weight." And it threw me off because I'm like, make sure I got enough air in my tire to make weight. And I go and I grab the chuck and I'm going to put air in the tire. And the whole time I'm thinking air doesn't weigh anything. But, I'm thinking this is Vance and Hines. They told me to do this. I'm going to do it. And then they're sitting there cracking up laughing. And it's stuff like that. When I first came on, I just didn't want to do anything wrong. I wanted to do everything right, to the point where it probably messed with me a little bit. And we're past that point now. Now I'll give them, unfavorable gesture, a not politically correct gesture, and that's where we are now. But we formed a friendship. We're very tight knit. We talk about a lot of things, not just racing. We all getting to know each other as men, as human beings. They're fathers. They're regular people, and I used to look at them as people who were bigger than, above that, and I don't know why, but that was just how I viewed them. But they're good guys, man, and I learn a lot from them, even off the racetrack. We lean on each other. We learn together. People think that they know everything. We are still learning at every single racetrack we go to. It's just now we all learn together. So it's been fun. It's been a hell of a ride. They've taught me things. I've been racing over 20 years, and you kind of get to a point where you think a good bit of what there is to learn. You still have stuff to learn, but I didn't know at what capacity I still had to learn until being on this team, and I'm having fun doing it. I appreciate the guys. It was this whole deal was really a life-changing thing for me, to be honest with you, on and off the racetrack from my family.
Or a radiator cap for bears, what somebody just said on a comment.
What did he say?
He said a radiator cap on a Corvair. That's like, putting water in a Volkswagen, same thing, you know.
Yeah.
But Richard, I can honestly say something. Mitchell and I was talking about this before, and we've learned a lot about your history and your upbringing and stuff like that. And we both got to tip our hats to you. You are definitely an inspiration to everybody out there, whether it's motorcycle racers or racers in general, or just being people, human beings. You're an inspiration, and it's appreciated. Your motivation, your drive, your stick to itiveness, and you're humble. I know what you said. You like to talk with your friends. You know what I mean, and stuff like that when y'all are busting chops when you're racing. But you're a very humble person. Also, the fact that you like to give back to your community. You're involved with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Okay, and I absolutely love the fact that you're doing that, and the fact that you've how many events you got working on this year? Is it 4 events? Or
And no, so we have 6 events working this
6?
year.
Okay.
We've already done a couple. And yeah, so that was one of the things that so I've told the story a few times, but I like to tell it again on each platform. I lost my father when I was 6 years old, and I was raised in a single parent house with my mom, and I had 2 other siblings, and we got to a certain point where she can't teach me how to be a man, right? She's a woman,
Right.
so she signed me up for Big Brother, Big Sisters of America, my sister as well. Um, and it really, honest to God, had a huge impact on changing the trajectory of my life. I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, not in like the outskirts of Philly, in the streets of Philly, and there was a
Right.
lot of things that I could have done to go a different direction in life. And my big brother's name was Jason Peck, good guy. We still have contact to this day, and he took me to a lot of events and a lot of things that I would have not. I remember him taking me to an art gallery. I remember him taking me to an air show, a national park. I'm a inner city kid. I'd never been to an air show or a national park or whatever, but it expanded my horizons. And
Right.
he was pivotal in my schooling. On the weekends, if I had a school project, he would help me with it, and it was just a lot of things that he ended up being like a big brother / father figure to me. And I always told myself, I said, when I get, I'm not really, I make this excuse, and I probably should stop. I want to join Big Brothers Big Sisters of America and be a big myself, but I always say I not really in the position to do it, so to speak. And I don't want to fail at it. But this was something that I felt like I was in a position to do right now. I told myself, if I ever made it onto the NHRA level, I had this idea. It's so funny. A friend of mine, Glenn Allen, texted me and was like, "Man, you've been talking about that for like 15 years." No, literally, it was a goal of mine. If I made it to NHRA, I would give back by doing something similar to what I'm doing right now. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I like to get those kids out there, and this is why I do it around cities, because I want that same demographic that I was, an inner city, maybe not maybe a little bit I don't know what the word is. Um,
Not around racing or exposed to anything like that.
yeah, yeah, and get them out to something that's like, I've never seen this before. I
Right.
didn't even know this exists. And you never know what it might do to one of these kids. They might not want to drive or ride a motorcycle there, but they may find a career in the media side of it. They may find a career in safety safari. There's so many different things going on within NHRA that I thought would be cool to expose this youth to. And I really enjoy doing this. The response that I've gotten from the kids and from the organization has been huge, and I hope that it's something that sticks around for a long time.
Well,
That's
I tell
great.
you what,
That's great.
that is awesome. And yeah, and like you said, there's so many opportunities in NHRA. I mean, you can become a mechanic on one of the teams.
Yep.
Uh, you can learn how to tune these machines. You
Yep.
know, the hospitality. I mean, it's all there. It all
Yep.
goes with it's a big moving show that moves across the
Exactly.
country. You know,
Exactly.
but one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is winning your first career event on the Pro Stock Motorcycle, and how that went, and how did that make you feel to be able to capture a Wally at the end of racing at the Super Grip NHRA Thunder Valley Nationals just a couple of weeks ago? Has it
Is
it
it sunk
settled
in
in,
yet?
or is it,
But
is
you see, I
still
started smiling as you
surprise?
were saying it, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it uh it hasn't really sunk in yet, to be honest with you. Not the magnitude of it. The biggest sensation I felt when it happened was relief, because you chase something, and I won't say that there was no doubt in there. There was doubt. Um, at various points in my career, not just once I got to NHRA, is, will I ever actually win a Wally? Like, how hard is that to do? Like, how do you even get up there and you do that? And to actually have lived and saw that through, and to have lived my dream, is something that I cannot describe in words. The Wally itself, the trophy itself, or the win itself, I can describe that. But the sensation of, I set out to do something as a
You earned
child,
it. Yeah.
and I did it. That's like, I can't describe it to you. You'd have to have been passionate about something and give your life, your whole, your heart and mind and body to something, and then achieve it, to really understand the magnitude of that part. But I'm blessed, man. I got put in a position to ride um for an amazing team, and those guys have been pushing me. They know how hard I've been working towards it, even since being on this team. You look at Gage and you're like, Stu wins almost every week. Why am I not winning? And there's multiple reasons for that. Some of them were me, some of them weren't me. But I don't regret. I'm happy that it went the way it did for me. I'm happy that I didn't win the first race or as soon as I jumped on the motorcycle, because at this stage in my career, it taught me a different level of fight. It taught me a different fight. You know, in my other forms of racing, I was gifted enough, I was talented enough that I was, you could be a good bit better than a lot of people. I'm a modest
Mhm.
guy, so it's hard for me to say the words, but you
I
could
know what
be
you
a
mean.
good bit better of a rider than the people you're racing. Over here, you with everybody else who's just as good. You know what I mean? And if they're not just as good all the time, all they got to do is be just as good while they're racing you, for that one pass. And it seems like
Yeah.
that's what I got from everybody. I got the best of everybody. If I cut an 015 light, they cut a 00 light. If I had a 500s performance advantage when they raced me, they'd find the 500s. It was just seemed like I just couldn't catch a break. And to go to Bristol, Braden came on board, and honestly, I told you I'm an emotional racer. I'm driven by things. I said, "There's no way." First of all, he's on the bike that I rode last year. Second of all, he's going to come here in his first race and get a Wally, and I've been here for a year. That they're going to lynch me on the internet. There's no way I can be the only guy that didn't win a race over here. And that was kind of like another. They kicked me in another gear, and I just said, you know what, I gotta find another gear this weekend, and I gotta make it happen. And when I woke up Sunday, I don't know why, but I just felt like I was gonna win. It was the first thought I thought when I opened my eyes. It was that I was gonna win the race that day. Of all days, that was the one that I knew was mine, and that's the way it happened. I can't believe it. I still stare at the Wally when I go out there, and I just I hope to get many more, but I'll never forget that one. That'll be one that I carry forever.
It kept you hungry. Not
Yeah,
not
for
winning
sure.
that first one, it kept you hungry, and
Absolutely.
you can tell that. So yeah, buddy, you're probably going to have that up on one of those little rotating tables with lights on it and stuff like that. You see on movies and things like that. You're probably going to do that, which and rightfully so. You earned it,
Well,
and
Probably.
I will tell you this, and I don't want to jinx you, but usually when we have someone come on the
oh,
show,
you did it. You did it,
they
Mitchell.
either qualify number one, or they go on, they win, or they runner up, and that's no lie. I mean,
Yeah,
we had Braden on here, and what has he been doing with y'all? Two number one qualifiers,
and a
and he
runner up.
wins the first Too Fast, Too Tasty Mission Foods Challenge last week, and so
Paul Lee
maybe
comes
rub off
on.
on you, and you'll pick up your second one this weekend up in Norwalk.
Paul
Well,
Lee
I
comes
ne-
on. He hasn't won. Here he is. He won.
Yeah, we had Paulie hadn't won nothing. We had him on the show. That next weekend, he goes out there and he wins his first Wally in Funny Car.
So then, how do I get on here every week before a race so I can see what I'll get that week?
You're penciled in, man. You're
Yeah,
penciled in.
but no, that's pretty cool because I've never qualified number one. That's been I've qualified second twice. Um, so I've qualified number two twice, but I've never qualified on the pole. I've been low ET of a round, but I've never even actually been a provisional number one, like even just after Friday or Saturday. So I'll take that. Hopefully you guys is hopefully the you guys' mojo rubs off on me and I go to Norwalk and I can seal that deal.
Now, if it happens, you just got to walk around all in the pits and say, "You ain't gonna believe this, but I went on that show." And you know that every time they have someone, they either go number one or they win a Wally. And look,
I'll scream it from the mountain.
I don't want to say that because you might not want them to come on the show.
I'll scream it from the mountaintops, and I'll probably find you guys some sponsors as much as I'll be talking about it. So no worries.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as you're safe, happy, and doing what you do, man, more power to you.
And one thing that I wanted to talk about is the way y'all ride the bike, how the bike is, how you have to put it. A lot of people think y'all just roll up there, you'll go through the water box, y'all do y'all's routine, y'all do the burnout, y'all roll up there and y'all stage the bike and y'all take off. But there's a whole lot other things going on. You're also, and we've learned this from other riders that we've had on our podcast. We even had Dean Papke on here talking about running over in the 750 class, and guess what? He's won too. You know, so he's taught us a lot of things as well. You know, you just don't go up there. That bike has to be positioned a certain way. It has to be, you know, straight up and down, on like on the axis to run down there. So you can't be a little leaning this way or that way. It's got to be perfectly upright. And you know, and as y'all take off, you know, a lot of people don't understand how physically in shape that you have to be once you let go of the clutch and you go down. You have to literally jerk yourself down over the top of the gas can. Well, the body, where the gas can would sit right there on the motorcycle, but you have to jerk yourself down there to hold yourself. If not, you'll get thrown off the back of the bike. And then another thing that we learned is I've always thought, Richard, that when you went down there, you used your legs to, you know, keep the bike steering straight, but that's not the truth. You use your hips.
Yeah, you know, this is it, and I'm glad you brought that up because there's so many different ways to do this. Some people do use their feet. Some people push on the pegs. To kind of treating the back of the bike like a rudder on an airplane. You know, you push on the right peg, like you're kind of trying to scoot the ass end of the bike over. Excuse my language. Scoot the back of the bike over, and to get it going straight. And you know, I've heard some fuel riders say that. You know, some people use their hips, some people use their shoulders and actual steering handlebar input. And this is where you have the differences between riders, their techniques. And what works for them and how that translates into ET or what's better or worse down the racetrack because we all do it differently. And the same thing about that's steering the bike we talked about, but the same thing about your start line. You know, you got some riders who leave tucked already. There's a lot of great riders that did that. Karen Stouffer she does not lunge forward. She leaves tucked already. She's been one of the best riders ever. Angie Smith. A lot of the ladies leave like that already, actually. But Sean Gann, he rode like that. And then you have guys who sit upright and lunge their body forward, and you can see a very dramatic, like they're throwing their head into the windshield. That's something that George Bryce told a lot of people at his school. We call it the Ram. That's what it's been named. I think George probably just called it that, but it's the Ram, and that's a style you see some people do, and then you see some people who are kind of in the middle. I call it an equal opposite reaction, like a Matt Smith. You don't always see his head slammed to the windshield, but you got to think it has to be doing something because this motorcycle's taking off and going in one direction at 2.5 or 3 Gs or whatever it is. You got to do something, or else your body is going to go off the back. So if you do the timing of it just perfect, it looks like you didn't move at all, but you did, and you got to have a lot of core strength. You know, I would say your thighs that hug the bike, your butt, your abs, is where a lot of the force of these motorcycles leaving goes to. It just and you got it. That's where you say that's part of that routine. You work on your core strength. You work on being prepared for that. But there's so many different ways to skin this cat. There's so many different ways to ride it. Some people believe one way is the way. Some people believe another way is another way. And we all arrive at the conclusion of going 1,320 feet. But,
Right.
you have your opinions on which ones are better. I'm going to probably not say which ones are better because I
Right.
got guys that I race against probably watching.
I
But
agree.
that's the beauty of it. You're always out there trying to figure out how to be better than the next person and trying to figure out what works best for you. You also have to think about that, your physical stature. Something that works great for another person may not work great for me at five
True.
three, short arms or whatever. So you have your physical stature you have to navigate around as well. But it's so many things to it, man. That's the beauty of our sport is everybody does it differently and we're all just out there trying to figure out who's the best.
Yeah, and I've known George for a very long time, and just an excellent guy. I think he's still doing his Tech Talk Tuesdays
Yeah.
on Facebook. I hope he's still doing that because it's a lot of fascinating stuff that he brings out there. But I went to several classes of his. Now I didn't ride, but just knowing George and knowing Jackie, I would just go hang out with them a little bit, talk to them if they need something. I'll say, hey, if you need me to run the store to pick it up, I'll go grab it for you and help them get everything loaded back up in the trailer with them after their school there when they did it at Gainesville. But I've been out there and I've watched some riders that said that they were been riders for all their life, and they almost get bucked off on every time. And George would come over to me. He says,
Would that be you?
First time I ever popped a clutch was on George Bryce's. First time I ever rode a pro stock style motorcycle was on George Bryce's school bike. And he told me to do a dry hop, and I popped the clutch, and my left hand came completely off the handlebar. I was already a 4-time champion when I did that. And it was the most humbling single experience of my life. I was like, whoa, I didn't
right.
expect that. But yeah, that was just a quick story I wanted to tell you. But yeah, so I'm listening to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
No,
and
no, you're good. You're
yeah,
good.
you're good. And so George come over. He says, "Hey, you know what they did?" I said, "Yeah, they're not using their muscles in their abs to to help them
Yeah,
stay
To
on the
yeah.
go to
bike."
go with the bike.
Right. Yeah,
That makes
and
sense.
I mean, yeah, this one person. I mean, I'm watching her, and she takes off. And she's like this, and by the time the bike hit this, the second gear, she goes to shift, and she's like this again. I looked over
Yeah.
George and says, "She ain't gonna kill herself out here
It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
because if
Well,
that's gonna happen, I'm gonna leave." He
well,
just
you know
started
Yeah.
that.
laughing.
And that's my biggest fear with leaving tucked because that is a technique that can work for people. It does work for people. But I can't wrap my mind around how they go with the bike if they're already down. But they do.
Right,
Again, that just goes back to the whole thing is everybody does it differently.
Mhm.
George was a big, big, big teacher, and a lot of people are in the class. Use a lot of the techniques that he taught in his schools still to this day. And that's probably timeless. But yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I've ridden a lot of motorcycles and a lot of fast bikes that are a lot faster than pro stock bikes. But the guys on NHRA.TV always use the term technical prowess. Um, the technical prowess it takes to ride these things and to ride them well and to go fast. People say, "Oh man, anybody can ride them." I think that's true. I think anybody can ride it and get down the racetrack in some fashion, but to ride it right and then to ride it right all the time, every single time, that's hard. And
that's a
Oh,
repetitious.
no doubt.
Got to
that's
be
that's the
repetitious.
hard part. People can get on it and ride it. Yes, anybody can be taught to get on it and ride it, and even those people will do it right here and there, almost by mistake. But to do it right and to deliberately do it right every single time, when Matt Smith's in the other lane, Gage Herrera's in the other lane, or it's the final round, or it's first round, or you're going for the pole, or whatever the case may be, and to know that that's on the line and to still do it right, That's hard, dude. I promise. It's hard.
Yeah, I'll tell you
How did
what,
you?
I
How,
was I was actually going to I was going to go through his class. I really was. I weighed 145 pounds at the time, and
not
I'm
anymore.
five not anymore, but I was 5'9" at that time and stuff. And George goes, "Have you ever rode a bike?" I says, "Well, I've been on a dirt bike a couple of times, but not really." He says, "You might be the perfect candidate because you'll probably listen to every single thing I got to say, and you won't be bringing bad habits with you." That's what he told me. But I never got around because I asked him, I was being honest. I was like, "How many times do you think it would take me to go through your class to be licensed?" And he told me, he said, "It'd probably take you 2 to 3 times." And he says, "I'm just being honest with you. That's just how hard it is
Yeah.
to attain that level and to be licensed."
Agreed, 1,000%. It's I won't say that people can't get on it and just make it happen, but it's a process. It takes I've been racing 20 years, and I'm still learning every single time I go to the racetrack on how to ride that thing better. And every time, like, let's just say there's a gap in between races, my first pass of the weekend feels like my first pass on the bike to me. It's like,
Right.
I got to remember, like da da da. But that's why I say you rely so much on muscle memory. If you do your routine and you do the same thing over and over, when you pop that clutch, it'll all come back to you. It'll all come to you. It
Right.
kind of
Right.
works that way for me. If somebody asks me, how do you do it or how do you ride it? I don't know that I could verbally regurgitate how to do it.
Right.
I would say, like a lot of the things just kind of happens to me just second nature. I pop the clutch and then your body and your instincts take over. That's at least how it is for me.
Now, here's something I've had somebody. Mitchell and I have both been around drag racing our entire lives in different stages, different calibers. But how in the world could you describe to somebody, a layman, whatever, like that, what it's like to ride an NHRA Pro Stock motorcycle with taking into account with everything that you've ridden up to this time? I mean, is it like trying to control a missile that's riding a bull while blindfolded, or I mean, what is it? I mean, how could you describe it?
So I've never thought about that. That's a good one. But let's take what you just said. It's like trying to ride a bull without the bull knowing you're on his back. So you're trying to do everything fluidly, smoothly, with minimal input to the bull. Like, so where he's just walking around as if he doesn't even know you're on his back. You know what I mean? That's what
Yeah.
riding a pro stock bike is like. You're really just trying to um you're trying not to be the thing that slows it down,
Right.
because they don't have nitrous, they don't have turbos, they don't have blowers, they don't have superchargers. It's just whatever engine you got right there with a 10-inch tire on the back, and you're all in. And the first second of the run, you got every piece of horsepower you got for the rest of the racetrack. So
Right.
you're trying to finesse this thing down the racetrack as smoothly as possible, and that is what it's like to ride a pro stock bike. The thrill of the speed, or there's nothing crazy or wild about them like some of the other bikes me engage and Joey Gladstone and Chip Ellis and Eddie, and we all rode a lot more radical combinations. It's no different than like a pro stock car versus a pro mod car, right? A
Right.
pro mod car is a wild machine. It's brute horsepower. It's going to go fast because it has that much power. A pro stock car is something you have to finesse, and you have to use every piece of horsepower it is the best of your abilities. That's what it's like riding a pro stock bike. Is I see people say online they need to get rid of pro stock and put pro street or put whatever else or whatever the case may be, and because they're faster. But you find the thrill and the competition and the competitiveness of it, and everything that I just named to you just now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I agree with you 100% because the one thing I like to do right as they finish Q1, I love going on there and looking at the qualifying order and how far everyone's separated, and then going back after Q4 and looking at the margin between 1 and 16. And it's like this,
Yep.
just to go to show you the 16th rider can beat the number one rider if he or she has a better reaction time. They can take that reaction time to be able to go down there and win on a hole shot.
So, for example, let's go this last race right here. I qualified sixth. I was a winner the race before, and I qualified sixth this race. That's how tight it was. I was only 200s off of the number two guy.
Mhm.
Number two went 678. I was sixth with an 80. But first round I draw Hector Arana Jr. He's number 11. But it's Hector Jr. So when you go up there first round and you're like, okay, this is a tight field. I know he's 11 and I'm 6, but it doesn't really matter. So if I would have cut an 040 light, which isn't a bad light, it's not a great light, but it's not a terrible light. If I would have, it's a safe light. If I would have cut 040, I would have went home first round to Hector Jr. So that's what racing our
Yeah.
class is like. You kind of, you got to find that balance between you don't want to be your own worst enemy, right? You don't want to go up there and screw yourself over when you got a performance advantage. You also don't want to go over there and you don't want to go out there and assume that somebody doesn't have anything left in the bank, because you don't know what he has. He might have just been made 3 bad passes in a row, or we might have got a rain day and he didn't get all of his runs, but his next run he would have went, just as fast as you, but it rained or
Mhm.
something like that. So you go up there E1 and you look over and you got Hector Jr. over there. You got to treat it like you're racing number one qualifier. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's the beauty of our class. People, you look at first round of qualifying, like you said, and you'll see a pretty, you'll see a good spread. And by the time round 4 comes, you see that spread tighten up. We're not quite as tight as Pro Stock Car, but we've been getting pretty close in there here lately, man. The last 2 races, you don't really see Braden, I think, had a pretty comfortable little margin from first to second, but on both events. But second to 12th or something like that was really, really, really tight.
Really tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
And I tell you, that just goes to show Vance and Hines. I call it the farm system, but it's not a farm system. But when you see the people riding for them right now, and you see their history of where they came from, the different bikes that they've ridden, you know what I mean, like you and Gage and Braden and stuff like that, you'll have a lot of similarities as far as the different associations and the different style of bikes you've ridden. And I think that's really, really interesting that especially you and Gage came from a very, very similar world, running the super street bikes and that combination and things. I guess Vance and Hines just keeps their eyes open for good talent.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool thing to talk about. Gage is from California, so it was an uphill battle for him to make it in motorcycle drag racing, period, because there's not as much racing out there. So he moved to Indiana so that he could get to where he could race competitively, because he's a very competitive guy. But when he first started, I messaged him on Instagram. First of all, I love this bike. I love this paint job. He drove cars. I thought he was pretty cool. So I messaged him and we formed a friendship long before any of the pro stock, before even pro street. He had a pro street bike, but it wasn't racing in pro street. He just built it. And we became boys. He's wired up a few bikes for me and everything. But anyway, make a long story short, we talked and talked in depth, and that kind of transformed into something that we both kind of helped each other out in multiple ways with what we do, and never imagined that we'd be on the same team at Vance and Hines. But we have the 2 quickest and fastest nitrous bikes in the world. The one we talked about earlier, were Brad Mummert's bike, and then Gage is he's the second fastest nitrous bike in the world, but he is the quickest nitrous Hayabusa platform in the world. And I believe he's been 643. And I don't remember what his speed is, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 210 mile an hour. So that's a pretty cool deal. I think Vance and Hines, more recently, when Eddie and Drew transitioned to not wanting to ride anymore, they started looking outside the box. Gage caught Andrew's eye. I kind of had my own bike that I was working on and riding at the time, and Gage caught Andrew's eye. He got the deal over here, and when Eddie decided to get off, they actually asked Gage, they were like, who would you like to be your teammate? And he said me. So that was pretty cool, man. That was it, just for it to come full circle like that, from us just talking on Instagram, maybe 8, 9 years ago, to being teammates on this platform is pretty crazy, man. It's pretty big. Braden is just a racer through and through, man. He comes from the
There he is.
Davis family. He is similar to me. We all known him since he was just barely a kid, and I don't think there's a person that ever encountered him, even at 6, 7 years old, that didn't think that he would be doing what he is right now. Because we all knew that was in him from birth. That's all his family. His mom and dad are hardworking people, but they work hard so that they can go racing as a family, and
Yeah.
and they go to win. And that's what Braden is. He's a product of an amazing family. His grandfather as well. So those are your three guys you see on the Vance and Hines bikes right now. Hopefully we get Braden a little bit more this year. He's looking for partners right this minute to keep him on the bike, to keep him going, and he's shown everybody, including us. We expected him to kind of start off slow and ramp up, and that's not he hit the ground running. So I hope that if he succeeds in finding some funding and partners to stay out there with us. We like having them, and we need all we can get to combat the wars and the MSR teams. So we like having them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the fans out there, they really enjoy the rivalry between Vance and Hines and Matt Smith Racing. They love it. They really do. And
yeah, I wouldn't call it always fun for us as competitors. It's not always fun, but it's definitely something that keeps you going. It keeps you and it makes it a team sport, right? It's not me
right,
versus Matt or Gage versus Angie or vice versa. It is us versus them. And
right,
you got everybody else too. We want to beat everybody, but we really want to beat MSR, and they really want to beat us. Like this past weekend, Angie, she was the warrior. She was the one that went out there. She had to fight. She had to fight us, and she went out there. She did an amazing job. There is a rivalry, and I know the fans love it. And we love it too. It's not just a rivalry for the fans, though. It's not just for social media. It's real. Those two
right.
teams, nobody's going to dinner. And but I do think there's a mutual, how I say, respect, in the sense
Yeah,
of
I
we
agree.
know what they're capable of. We know how hard they work. We know how fast their bikes are. And they know what we're capable of. It's different. It's different how we all do things, but we all leave the racetrack to come. We all left the shops to come to the racetrack and be the best team there. And we push each other every single time we see each other, for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll
A
tell you
competitive
what, Richard,
rivalry. Yeah.
I want to thank you for joining us tonight for a quick turnaround. Back-to-back events. I know that's got to be hard, not just on the team, but for families as well. That you have to turn around and go right back out. But we're definitely looking forward to stopping by and seeing all of y'all at the U.S. Nationals in Indy. I know it seems like it's far away, but the end of August to be here before we know it.
Right.
And hopefully Davis have some sponsors to help him race at the U.S. Nationals as well. It'd be really great to see all three of y'all up there competing.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm really looking forward to taking the on the spot motorsports media uh gift over to the next race and get number one qualifier out there, and hopefully win the race as well. But I really appreciate you guys having me. Thanks for everything you guys do for the sport, and you guys got to be just as passionate as us racers too. You don't get the thrill of riding a motorcycle or driving the car and going 200 or 300 mile an hour. So what keeps you guys at the races doing what you do? You have to love it. So we appreciate, well, you guys do, you race, but I'm just saying, to take
Right.
outside of racing and then take and want to cover this stuff, it means a lot to us. So thank you guys for having me. Thanks for all you do, and I'm looking forward to more. I'm looking forward to being back on here again.
Well, I'll tell you what, good luck this weekend, and we'll be watching to see if you grab that number one spot and maybe pick up your second, Wally.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard. You have a good night. Stay safe, my friend.
You too, bud. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
I'll tell you what a great interview with Richard right there. Just a great story of, his passion for the sport, starting at a very young age, going to the tracks and stuff with his young uncle, Ricky. And look what it's led to. Now he's an NHRA. He's already won his first race and his fifth final round appearance. Just quite remarkable, actually, that he's grown very fast in the sport around NHRA in a very short career. He's only in his second year, and I'll tell you what, I hope he's the best. He's also sitting now, I think right now he's currently third in points, and he's I want to say like maybe 26 points behind Matt Smith or something like that.
Because I was thinking it was like 2 or 3 rounds. I was thinking, it was something close. And I tell you, I love hearing his passion, and I know you did too. His passion for the sport, his passion for what he does, and that helps motivate him. And I love hearing that and the competitiveness in it, because just like you said, and like we've seen, everything everything that he's ridden on, he's won. It doesn't matter what. But like did you notice how he said the 460 championship was one of his proudest moments because of how tight the competition was? Not that he had a performance advantage, not this or not that, but it was just how tight it was. And so that just shows the competitiveness. And like we also said, the fact that he's given back with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, for example. Okay, that is really great. I mean, one of his first things he spoke of, and he spoke of it for many years earlier, is that when the opportunity arises and he makes it to Pro Stock, okay, when he makes it there, he's going to give back. And that's one of the very first things he did. And okay, so that's a tip of the hat to him. That's a very respectful thing, very humble, but a very respectful thing to do, to give back. And I think it's great. I think he's really, really, really going to have a great year, and I don't see why not. I mean, he's well underway.
All right, I'll tell you what, everyone, we're going to take a little commercial break, and we'll be right back to close up the show and let you know what's happening next.
Reliability to drive thousands of miles. Confidence for those who fly high. Redline oil products give you the power to crush the competition and a track record of being the best. Redline oil products. You push it to the limit, we'll protect it.
Ready to take your engine to the next level? Scorpion Racing Products delivers precision-engineered, high-performance rocker arms that dominate the track. 100% CNC machined in the USA with aerospace-grade aluminum for unmatched strength and durability. Our rocker arms handle extreme conditions with multiple ratios available to fit your needs. Backed by our exclusive lifetime warranty. When performance matters, choose Scorpion Racing Products. Proven, reliable, unstoppable.
Again, I want to thank our marketing partners that help us with our show and our live stream, Scorpion Racing Products, and being part of Team Redline Oil. We do appreciate them. And I tell you what, go check them out. They may have something that you need for your car. But Robert, I tell you what, we've got 2 shows this week. So we just got finished with Richard Gadson. And now this Thursday at 7 o'clock, we got Keith Turk coming on. Yep. He's done a lot of stuff. Land speed racer. He's been tied in with the Hot Rod Power Tour, or where they do
Hot Rod Drag Week.
Yeah, Drag Week. Hot Rod Drag Week.
He helped create and lay out the rules for Hot Rod Drag Week. He also helped lay out the safety rules and stuff for Sick Week. He owned and operated the East Coast Timing Association. Yep. Which does land speed racing. He's been a land speed racer for I don't know how many years, a lot. He was a teammate with David Freiberger of Hot Rod Magazine.
Yes.
David Freiberger set several records in his cars over the years of over 200 miles an hour, and it's been over 261 with his 81 Camaro. And most recently, Alex Taylor used his car, he and his wife's car, to go to Bonneville and race and compete. What's interesting is he's based out of Alabama. He lives in Alabama, but he races salt flat racing and drag and drive events, and you'll see him all over videos of Roadkill Garage and stuff like that. He's got a fascinating history, but he absolutely loves land speed racing. And so if you've never had an opportunity, I've enjoyed it my whole life, and that's one of my goals is to go to it. It's got an interesting history. It's got a wonderful, rich history. It's where the hot rodding came from and originated from, was from the salt flats and everything on the West Coast. And he has not only a deep history of that, but he can explain how you do it, how you go about it. It's not just you just show up and run. There's far more to it. They got a much, much deeper safety routine and safety specs than anything I've ever seen. And,
you mentioned that, Robert. That is where Wally Parks actually had his feet in, was, racing on the salt flats.
Yep.
And coming up with all the rules and regulations for safety, and helped found the NHRA because he wanted an association that also had the same safety requirements, not as far as safety requirements, but to keep the drivers safe,
right,
doing their categories.
Right.
So the salt flats has a pivotal moment of why NHRA came about.
Absolutely. And the fascinating thing about Keith, he's got records over 200 miles an hour. His wife Tanya has records over 200 miles an hour driving one of the two cars that they've had. They're both got the red hats, which is for Bonneville for 200 mile an hour club. I'm trying to remember how it is. I think 200 mile an hour is red, 300 mile an hour is blue, and the 400 is black. I think that's what it is. That's how they designate the records visually when somebody comes up. And also land speed racing, there's no purses. There's no money to win. It's all for pride, and if you're hard work and have some of the most crazy combinations of vehicles you've ever seen in your life, all with one goal is just to go fast, and that's it. And so should be exciting.
The one movie that is really great for people to see is The World's Fastest Indian,
right?
With Monroe from New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Had his motorcycle shipped over, and he picked it up and trailered it to the salt flats. Just a remarkable story. Not did he just do it once, but he done it several times. And the man even had a heart condition, and he would not let that stand in his way to be able to go there and run his motorcycle and set records. Just a truly great movie. If you've never watched it, I think you can watch it now on YouTube with just, some commercials in there, but just a remarkable movie.
Absolutely. And so I'm looking forward to, I know you are too, I'm looking forward to speaking with him and learning more about him. Man's got a fascinating history, and he loves sharing, he loves teaching. But we encourage everybody to tune in, because all of us around here are listening to the On the Spot Motorsports Media are typically drag racers. Drag racers are in some kind of or circle track racing or something like that, but primarily drag racing. But land speed racing is a totally different challenge. Okay, it has the same thing in mind, go fast. And usually you have more distance to do it. Where we have a quarter mile, they have ranging anywhere from 1.5 miles up to 7 miles, depending on what course they're at. But sometimes if they race on the East Coast, they run on pavement. Okay, if they run on the West Coast, they run on salt or a silt dry lake bed. Zero traction. Okay, so there's the challenge. And, you don't want aerodynamic drag. You keep things minimal, that kind of aspect. And it's the last opportunity for somebody to create something in their mind, however they think it is, under these set of rules for whatever class they're in, build the better animal to go faster, whatever it might be. There's tank engines out there. There's diesels. There's turbines. There's plenty of piston power. There's two-stroke. There's obviously four-stroke. There's electric. There is something for everybody. And there's
every combination that you can think of.
Everything. There's flatheads. There's all the way up to custom. I think it's the Armini. I can't remember the Armini and something else. The man handmade a V12, dual overhead cam V12, welded the block together out of plate aluminum. Okay, you got to watch the videos. Thing turns over 11,000 RPMs. It makes like 700 horsepower, something out of 300 inches or something like. It's ridiculous. It's already set several records. But it's like, are you kidding me? It's just some of the craziest things. For example, I know I'm getting off topic, but we're going to interview Keith Turk, and he's going to talk about everything from History of Drag Week to Sick Week. He just came off Sick Summer. He was just involved with that, and all the way to Bonneville and everything in between. So
yeah, and I hope Tom Bailey's feeling a whole lot better. He actually,
I think
really
he is.
did get sick during Sick Summer, so
Yeah,
I'm hoping he's doing better. And
yeah, I heard he's feeling a lot better. And yeah, Aiden took his car and he actually got in the eights with it. After a couple hard times, after they changed the converter and did some testing and working on it, I say testing, making runs. They eventually went 897, I think, 897 or 896 with it. So it's an 8-second street car, and
it was funny watching Mitchell Garrett driving his car, no shirt on, trying to stay cool.
Yeah, lumberjack. They took the doors off to try to shed some weight, and got it. I think they got that one in the 940s, and Jack Stan went 870s. He eventually got it down to 870s, and then the fellas with the Mustang, they got that one down. I want to say a 940 something, but 950s. They eventually ventilated it.
The Snot Rocket.
No, Snot Rocket's a Mustang. That's out of the Motion Raceworks group. That's totally different. That's a.
So they didn't take it.
No. Actually, he didn't compete this year in that one. They took the Motion Raceworks. Doug Cook and them. I don't think Doug was driving it though. It was Brett LaSalle, which owns Snot Rocket.
Right.
Okay, right. Brett LaSalle was co-pilot in the El Toro, which is the Rowdy Radial, the small tire Mustang that Motion Raceworks has, and the gentleman that owns Fuel Tech drove it. Okay, so I think they won Rowdy Radial. I think he was running, because they only run an 8th mile in Rowdy Radial because it's a small tire and that whole combination. That's the class, and it's heads up, and 470 something was I think when he went the 8th mile. But no, Brett LaSalle was co-pilot at this event, whereas Sick Week he had Snot Rocket and he was the green S&E Mustang. So there's a lot going on there. There's a lot.
Well, and I want to remind everybody before we go off, we'll be live streaming the races, the Scorpion Racing Products ET Series at Gainesville Raceway Saturday and Sunday, weather permitting. Looks like the forecast keeps on getting worse than better. But if not, then the next live stream of the racing of the Scorpion Racing Products will be in September as we finish up our season out there. So we're looking forward to that. It's hard to believe we already went through a season of racing, in which, of course, we do take off July and August. Thank goodness that we do that, because it gets a little extremely hot sitting in the car with a fire jacket on and a helmet. But
nothing like Richard, though. Nothing like what Richard and them put up with. But yeah, you're right. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in here for On the Spot Motorsports Media on this special Tuesday night broadcast. But also we want to thank our marketing partners that we work with, Scorpion Racing Products and for Redline Synthetic Oil. They're both great companies to work with. And if you have a need for them, you need to look them up because they have something for you. And if not, they can work with you and help create or develop something that does work for your needs. We know We know somebody that's actually working with Redline for developing oil for their needs, and also people working with Scorpion with their development to work on all the new products coming out. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the live feed, the live stream, the podcast, and coming soon, I'm sure will be T-shirts and hats. Yeah.
Well, everyone, take care, and we'll see you.
Everybody have a good night. Take care.